So in our previous video, we talk about the data types. What are they? We have a numeric, then we have integer, then we talk about the character, uh, then fourth one is the complex, then the fifth one is the logical. Okay, so these are the 5 data types we have seen yesterday, and to get which command we use to find out the data types in R, like particularly if we have X variable which has values like 1, 2, 3. So we want to know what is the type of data X variable has. So for that we use the command class, and in bracket we'll write the that variable name. Next we have seen the how to comment in R, how to write comments in R. Okay, so how to write comments in R. So for that we what we have done, we use the hash. We use hash. So this much we have seen. Now in today's video we are going to talk about the simple mathematics. So in today's video we'll talk about the simple mathematics. Simple maths. So in simple mathematics, for example, as we all know that we can do the multiplication, addition, subtractions, everything in R. And I have made first my video in which I have explained these things. Now, if I want to find out if I want to find out what is the maximum value between the 12, suppose 45 and 60, if I use this. So I want to find out what is the maximum value between these numbers. So I'll use a max command. So max in bracket, I'll write it down the numbers, or the another way is like, if I suppose I have a one variable, then I'll put the name of that variable. So I'll get the maximum value of it. The third is like if I want to find out the minimum value between the given numbers. So similarly, I can do that. Or suppose I have a one variable and I want to find out what is the minimum value in that variable. So I can do that. I'll simply write it down minimum and I'll place X in between the brackets. So I'll get the minimum value in the X variable. Now, if I suppose I have I want to find out the absolute positive value. So what I'll do, I'll write it down, suppose 4 and 5. Okay, 4 and 6. So absolute positive value, I think we all are aware about it, but I'll explain you once. Like absolute positive value means what? Suppose suppose -3 plus 1. So the answer of this is -2, right? But sometimes we use a mod. Like suppose we want to calculate the distance or anything. So sometimes we use this mod. So this mod means what? If any negative value is present in that mod, so we'll consider it as the 2, or it changes as the positive value. So this is if you want to change, if you want to these things in R, what we'll do? We'll use this command absolute, and in bracket we'll write it down the number, or we can similarly we can write it down similarly we can write it down the variable also. Like for a particular variable we have a more negative window, so we'll write down that variable name, or it will print the positive value, or it will change those negative value into the positive value. Now suppose there's another concept, like there's another function, ceiling 1.4, or suppose a ceiling, I'll mention X. So what this ceiling means basically, so ceiling means like suppose Um, so ceiling means, suppose I have like 1.5 or 1.23 or some values. So what I'll do, suppose 1.5 I have. Ceiling means it will round off this number in upward to its nearest integer. So it will, if I use this ceiling function, so it will answer will be 2. So it is rounding off this number into its nearest in upward direction. So it will mention 2. Okay, and if I use, so this is a ceiling. So similarly, right, we can write it down in numbers, or we can use the variable. Like suppose we have a particular variable x which has many values, which which has many values like in point 0.1 or 0.9, and I want it to be converted into its nearest integer, so it will change into the 2. Okay, so 1.9, so it will change into the 3. So similar way we can convert, or we can round off these numbers into its nearest one in upward direction, means in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, now if I want to convert these numbers into, suppose in a downward value, like if I have a value like 1.5, but I want it to be suppose converted, rounding off into suppose 1, it's in downward direction. So what I'll do, so for that, I'll use the another function which will rounding off this value into its downward direction. So for 1.5, we'll get the answer 1. Okay, so this for that we have the another function, and that is the flooring. Floor 1.5. So it will, we can use, it will rounding of this value into its near in downward direction to its into nearest whole number. So I can use the variable also. Now we are going to see how to perform these things in R. Okay, so so if I want to find out the maximum value, suppose x is equal to, I'll mention 13, sorry, 1, 4, and 5, and I want to find out the maximum value of x. So I'll use the maximum function, and it will give me the, which is the maximum value here is 5. Suppose I want a minimum value in x. So I'll use the minimum function, I'll write it down minimum x, so I'll get the 1. Okay, now suppose I have another vector which has value 2.5 minus 2.5 minus 6 suppose minus 2 minus 4 then minus 6, and I want its absolute. So what I'll do, absolute, and in bracket I'll write it down y. So you can see here I have negative values, now it is converted into this positive value. Now suppose I have w, which in this vector contain the value like 1.5, 3.4, 6.7. So I want to a rounding of these values into its nearest whole number, but in upward direction. So I'll use ceiling, CEILING, ceiling W. So see, it's rounded these numbers into its upward direction. So for 1.4, we'll get the answer 2, then 3.5, it's getting the 4. Now similarly, we can, if we want it rounding, if we want to round this value into its downward direction, so I'll use the floor. Okay. flow function. So it will round off these numbers into downward direction. So I'll get 136. So this is the way we perform some simple maths. Again, if I want the square root, I'll use the sqart function and I'll mention the value, suppose x, I can write. So it will gives me the square root of those values which are present in x. Similar way, I can use the another variable like say w. So I'll get the square root of these numbers.